This book is Daisy Head Mayzie by Dr. Seuss. It's hard to believe that such a thing could be true, and I hope such a thing never happens to you. But it happened, they say, to poor Mayzie McGrew, and it happened like this. Sitting one day at her desk in school in her usual way, and she felt a small twitch at the top of her head. So Mayzie looked up and she almost dropped dead. Something peculiar was going on up there. A daisy was sprouting right out of her hair. Behind her was sitting young Herman Butch Strudel. Well, that looks like a daisy up here on her noodle. It doesn't make sense. Why, it couldn't be so. A noodle's no place for a daisy to grow. Then spoke up another young boy, Einstein von Toss, the brightest young man in the whole of the class. It is a very odd place to be sprouting a daisy, but nevertheless one is growing on Mayzie. Hey, look it, cried Butch, right here in this room. Daisy Head Mayzie, she bursting in bloom. Miss Nature, the teacher, came rushing up quick. Such nonsense! Some child here is playing a trick. Which one of you boys stuck that thing in her hair? You know that a daisy could never grow there. But teacher, I saw the thing rise right out of her head with my very own eyes. Just give it a yank if you think I tell lies. But Miss Nature heard quite enough of this talk. Mayzie, hold still. Let me get at that stalk. Ouch! Hollered Mayzie. Quit yanking, Butch said. You're giving her pains. I bet those roots go way down to her brains. The kids in the class shouting like crazy. Daisy Head Mayzie, Daisy Head Mayzie, Daisy Head Mayzie. Children, be quiet. Good grief, and at last. Miss Nature, the teacher, was shocked by the noise in her class. I've taught in this room 20 years, maybe more. Oh, but I've never seen anything like this before. I'll have to report it. You'll just have to come to the principal's office and show Mr. Grum. Now, the principal, good Gregory Grum, was a very wise man, just as smart as they come. He knew more than anyone else in the nation about long division and multiplication. He knew all the answers, why oceans are so deep, why skies are so high, why mountains are steep. He should have the answer to this thing on Mayzie. Pooh, my word, he declared. It's a genuine daisy. I've seen them quite often, in fields growing wild, but never before on the head of a child. Now, what in the world ever made this thing sprout? I have no idea, but I'm going to find out. It says daisies grow on land, they grow between rocks, they also grow in sand. Ooh, it mentions right here that they can grow in a pot, but mention the head of a girl, it does not. Daisies, it says, sometimes grow in Alaska, also Missouri, Rhode Island, and Nebraska. They grow in Japan and in Spain and Peru. In India, France, and Idaho, too. They grow in South Boston and also in Rome, but why should they grow on this little girl's dome? Say, look it, said Mayzie. Oh, it's wilting, it's drooping. How wonderful, Mayzie. It soon will be dead and you'll be rid of that daisy. In just a few minutes, our troubles will pass, declared Mr. Grum. Take her back to class. The principal saw the most terrible sight. The daisy was dying when, well, that was all right. But the daisy was part of poor Mayzie McGrew. And Mayzie was starting to wilt away too. Teacher, said Mr. Grum, you know what I think? They're both going to die. Hurry, bring them a drink. That daisy, that girl's the worst problem in town. You take her away and you make her lie down. You lock her up tight in a room down the hall. There are quite a few numbers that I have got to call. Get Maisie's parents on the end of the line. I need them here quickly while there's still time. On the phone, Maisie's mom asked, "What's all the fuss about?" Then, "Goodness to Betsy, I'll catch the next bus." A call to the shoe store reached Mr. McGrew. He answered while holding a customer's shoe. "Yes, this is..." "Oh no, I really must go." "A doctor should see her," the principal said. "An expert on plants, like the one on her head." So he called Dr. Einsbart, who said, "What a trick! My stethoscope's packed. I'll be there in a tick." "Wait, Doc," said the patient. "I'll come along too. My brother's a vet and he knows this McGrew." When he heard, Finch the florist grabbed for his shears. "I'll be there as soon as my truck can shift gears." Meanwhile, poor Mayzie lay down on the couch. The daisy slumped down on the leaves in a slouch. But the window was open because it's warm, and a sweet-smelling daisy attracted a swarm of bees. Bzz. Bees, bees! The faster she ran, the faster they flew, so Mayzie kept running. What else could she do? She attempted to hide behind Officer Thatcher, who cupped his hat like a bumblebee catcher. The bees took his hat. Thatcher said, "I'm no fool," and ran after Mayzie back to the school. Principal Grum didn't know what to do. "It's worse," cried Sneecher, "much worse than we feared. The daisy and Mayzie have both disappeared." Behind her came charging Mr. McGrew, chased by a customer chasing his shoe. Finch, the florist, and Dr. Einsbart, too. Dr. Einsbart's patient and Mrs. McGrew. Then through the window with Officer Thatcher, who slammed the pane shut so the bees couldn't catch her, jumped Mayzie McGrew to the floor in a splatter, with the daisy still there, except taller and fatter. "My poor little daughter! The daisy is true! I'm gonna faint," cried Mrs. McGrew. "Tut-tut-tut," said the florist. "There's no need for tears. Just because that daisy's between her two ears, I'll snip it right off with my sharp pruning shears." "She's my patient. Don't touch her. You must stand apart. We have to have room," said Dr. Einsbart. "I think that Mayzie and this plant could help me get a research grant." Then the door opened wide and the mayor stepped inside. At meetings and greetings, there was none to compare. He was the best at long speeches, chock full of hot air. "I promise my friends that if I am re-elected, this daisy on Mayzie will be disconnected. The law of our fathers is simple and sound. Daisies belong and should stay in the ground. The rest are illegal, and we shall bar them from town." From the back corner came a voice, sometimes loud, sometimes slick, of a wheeler and dealer who knew every trick. "I am Finnegal, the agent. You've heard of me, I'm sure. I represent young What's-His-Name and others now on tour. But Mayzie, you're so special. Please let me shake your hand. Your talent is a wondrous thing, unique in all the land. Daisy had Mayzie spelled out in bright lights. Will draw the kids in the day and the parents at night. Daisy had Mayzie. You've got quite an act. Just stick with me, kid, and sign this contract. Your flower needs to sign too." Her mother said, "Mayzie, don't be a fool." And the principal begged her not to leave school. But Mayzie didn't stop to blink. She signed her name in think-proof ink. And the daisy signed too. Daisy Head Fever was gripping the nation. It had quickly become a worldwide sensation. Daisy had burgers and Daisy had drinks. Daisy had stockings and Daisy had sinks. Daisy had buttons and Daisy had bows. Mayzie was famous, the star of her show. Fame had knocked at Maisie's door. Now she had it all and more. Piles of money stacked in tens. But what is money without friends? A dream had led her far astray, and that was the price she had to pay. Mayzie McGrew ran night and day, nowhere to go, nowhere to stay, because she was sure everyone must have written her off in a total disgust over and over again in her head. These are the words that poor Mayzie said. I can't go home. Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. Nobody loved her? Oh, poor Mayzie McGrew. It's hard to believe that such a thing could be true. And maybe that's why, then this daisy above, when Mayzie below began talking of love. Well, you know about daisies. When love is in doubt, the job of a daisy is try and find out. They love her not. They love her not. Don't worry, Mayzie. They love you. They love me. Well, that's how it happened. The thing went away, and Mayzie McGrew is quite happy today. Back at her studies and doing just great in all of her subjects in room number 8. And concerning that daisy, you know that it never grew out of the top of her head again. Ever. Well, practically never. Popped up again there. Excepting occasionally, just now and then. Ding. And after all, I'm getting used to it.